Connecticut Congressman John Larson chairs the House Democratic Caucus and serves the Ways and Means Committee. And Congressman Larson, you know where I'm coming from. Sure. You and I, in fact, agree on many of the things that I argue. I will bring my arguments into this, but first let us look at the actual argument that it exists. Is it a sad day for America that the political floor has become a production environment for political advertisements?
I think it is, certainly, Dylan. And, you know, we had testimony before the Ways and Means Committee, 4 Republican witnesses who came there. And we said to them, with regard to the debt ceiling, would you please give us your best answer with regard to this? To a person, they all said, if you thought Lehman Brothers collapse and the ensuing problematic areas that were created by the collapse of Wall Street were a problem, for the United States to default on its responsibilities is incredible. And I know that there's a wink and a nod supposedly from Wall Street, but this isn't a joking matter. We've been down this path before.
And at the same time, we've been forced into policies that perpetuate giant banks, that eliminate choice in health care, that perpetuate the importing of foreign oil and Mideast oil while funding a war where we pay for both sides, because we're consistently given political rhetoric that says if we do not do this, if you don't do this, certain doom. And so if you don't give us the TARP and bail out the banks and give them all the money and no strings attached and make sure everybody keeps their job and make sure they all get their bonuses and make sure you make the banks bigger and make sure that you basically debase the currency, screw over students, screw over retirees, if you don't do that, certain doom. At the same time, you and I both know the debt ceiling, by virtue of the fact that it's a vote, is effectively arbitrary. You could raise it. It's like a curfew for a 17-year-old. Long-term debt is hugely consequential, but to make the debt ceiling, which is, again, the curfew for a 17-year-old, the core issue, as opposed to the core issue being why are we in so much debt and how can we reform that? And have we abandoned America's values on all of these major issues? What has to happen for the Democrats to go beyond certain doom and into the real resurrection of American values?
Well, I think Democrats are there, Dylan, if I might. And, you know, not only is it a matter of bringing this debt ceiling up there, which is, you know, something I think that we, as the full faith and credit of the United States, have a responsibility. This would be defaulting on debts that we've already incurred. This isn't increasing the debt to expand opportunity for further growth. And then to juxtapose it, as you articulately pointed out, citing more than Medicare, but specifically to talk about Medicare the way that Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership has, as though this is the chit that they're putting out there, that the Democrats are going to have to back off of Medicare. Look, there's more than $700 billion that Reuters has said exists annually in savings that we could get out of the health care system, which, as you know, is because Medicare is reimbursement, it's the health care system that needs to be constrained. And you went through a list of them, but let me repeat them again. And whether it's medical devices, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's insurance, whether it's doctors, whether it's hospital, whether it's trial bar, that's where the real work has got to be done. That's where we should be rolling up our sleeves on a bipartisan basis to go after this thing and do it on behalf of the American people, not balancing it with a Hobson's choice on the back of the very people we're sworn to serve, on those that can least afford it. We're gonna go after Medicare. We're gonna slash Medicaid to people that are in nursing homes. Come on, let's get real about this and who needs the help of the American government and pull together.
And listen, I agree with what you're saying. The concern, I guess, is that whether it's you or any other Democrat or any other Republican, that you guys are so dependent to get money from those very industries that you just discussed. So as right and as passionate and as honorable as your intentions or somebody else in your chair's intentions may be, when it comes down to it, because the system forces you and those like you to solicit money to keep your job from the very industries that we're discussing, it leaves us with at an impasse, which gets us back to money printing and or screw the poor people, which seem to be the two choices right now.
I could not have said it better than you. Just in this last quarter alone, I know you're going to be talking about gas prices next. I just had a forum back in my district and a press release, press conference today. $34 million was spent just in the last quarter by the financial services industry lobbying against, the Dodd-Frank bill, or having the regulation of commodities futures go into effect. I mean, this is it's incredible. But you're right. As an author, along with Dick Durbin, of campaign finance reform, you get it exactly right, Dylan, that this is where we have to go. But to wean everybody in Congress off of that, needless to say, is a dauntless task, but one that should be pursued. And the more people that speak up, like you,
what I would say is, why don't we use the debt ceiling instead of as a leverage point to screw the poor people or kick the can down the road, to say, listen, the problem is we can't deal with the things that are costing us all this money, whether it's in the healthcare system, whether it's in the military, whether it's in the banking system. And the reason we can't deal with it is because we're dependent on the very people we have to deal with to get money to keep our jobs. Thus, let us start at the root of the problem. This doesn't strike me as rocket science. Quickly.
It doesn't strike me as rocket science either. The system is not corrupt because everything is legal, but it's corrosive. And it's that corrosive nature that led to the bailouts that you've talked about before during TARP. And it's what has us in this game that we're in of politics currently. America's got to wake up to the fact that citizens have got to take control again by recognizing that a grassroots funded organization that doesn't find people dialing for dollars every single day and beholding to special interests, but rather the only people that are responsible are the citizens they're sworn to serve.
And the American values of choice and fair play. This is not a rocket science country.
That's true.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Dylan.